I couldn't pick a better thing to do first, coming back from the road, than introduce our next in-day speaker, Charles Best. Charles is the founder and CEO of an organization that is very, very near and dear to my heart, and that is DonorsChoose.org. For those that don't know, DonorsChoose.org is a philanthropic marketplace that enables teachers to upload projects that need funding. Oliver's here too. Where have you been hiding out? Hey, I just saw Oliver. That's Charles' CTO. It enables teachers to put up projects online. It enables anyone to come online, do a search for those projects, and fund them. And it's completely revolutionized the world of philanthropy. Along with an organization called Kiva that some of you may be familiar with that does microloans. It's forever changed the face of the way in which people can get involved and give to their favorite causes. And Charles and Oliver are going to tell you all about that. But before they do, I wanted to tell you a little bit about Charles's story and how I came to know him, because I think it's very illustrative of the kind of person he is. As I mentioned in the email I sent this morning, Charles is easily one of the most talented entrepreneurs I've ever known, and I think people immediately think, well, you know, it's a nonprofit entrepreneur, that's probably a little bit different, and it's not at all. Entrepreneurial skills are entrepreneurial skills. It requires true vision and conviction to understand where the world is going. It requires, in our world, product sensibility and an understanding of unmet needs. It requires business acumen, so you can generate a sustainable model. It requires the ability to evangelize and tell your story and convince others to follow. And I think most importantly, as you'll hear in just a moment, it requires resourcefulness. And what Charles has done, what folks like Oliver has done, it's truly extraordinary. So long story short, and these guys will fill in the details, Charles was a 10th grade teacher in the Bronx in 2000. Very enterprising, extremely bright, very creative, super passionate. And he came to see a dynamic very early on in his experience there, and that was he needed to reach into his pocket to fund projects that weren't part of the normal curricula. And it turns out today, teachers, and these are some of our most talented, innovative teachers, the best teachers, go into their pockets to the tune of over $1.3 billion on an annualized basis to fund these projects. So these same folks who have extremely little in the way of base salaries have this huge economic disincentive to do things creatively and innovatively. So Charles, being the visionary person he is, thought there must be a better way. And so without any web skills whatsoever, he mapped on a piece of paper what a website would look like that would enable teachers like him to raise the funds to fund these projects. And then he went out and he contracted with a developer and they built this site. And so he had his website, and now he needed to figure out a way to get some projects in his website. So he asked his mother to bake a, what was that, peach cobbler? Peach cobbler, yeah. His mother baked a peach cobbler. This is the first key to hit the liquidity of Donors Choose that eventually made it successful. And he brought it in, and you know, teachers, students, they all like a good bake sale. So he brought it into the teacher's lounge, and he set up shop, and some of the teachers came over and they said, what's this? This looks great. I'm going to have some of that. I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. If you want some of this, you're going to have to give me a project of yours that needs some funding. And they're like, I'm sorry? So to get the dessert, I need to ask you for money? He's like, yep, I got this new project. Just go with it. And they're like, whatever, just give me the peach cobbler. Here's the project. This guy has no idea what he's talking about. Okay, so I need this. I need these American history books. I need some AV equipment. Here you go, Charles, whatever. So here's the next thing he did, truly entrepreneurial. He had to figure out a way to provide capital to fund all these projects so that people knew it would work and word would start to spread. So very quietly, behind the scenes, he asked his aunt to fund all of those projects without the knowledge of these teachers. And all of a sudden, the teachers were like, wait a minute, this thing actually works. So word started to spread, more projects came online, and then he had a different problem. So now he's got tons of projects. So how is he going to get people, besides his aunt, to start funding these projects? And so he convinced his 10th grade class to help him write students to his alumnus. It was Yale. And they wrote to fellow alums from Yale explaining the project and seeing if they would be interested in funding the Donors Choose platform and all the projects that had been uploaded. And sure enough, it worked. It worked like a charm. So much so that 11 years later, DonorsChoose.org has allocated over $80 million to classrooms, touching nearly 5 million students. And it was all because of that vision, that entrepreneurial drive, and that resourcefulness. And I think most of you know that ever since I graduated high school, I've been interested in education reform, or as Sal Khan likes to say, education revolution, and was always looking for that platform that would enable it to scale. And it wasn't until I used DonorsChoose.org for the first time, and in a small world story, that was through a recommendation from Meg Garlinghouse, that I had a chance to experience this truly, truly unique and innovative platform. And after experiencing it once, I asked to meet Charles, and we went and got some drinks. We scheduled it for like 30 minutes or 45 minutes. We spent about 3 hours together, and at the end of it, I said, anything you need, I'll help, anything, and nothing in return. I just think what you're doing is incredible, extraordinary. And that's how we got started working together, and 9 months later, he very graciously asked me to join his board, and it's been one of the most extraordinary opportunities for me to get involved with something that's been a lifelong passion. So I'm extremely grateful to Charles, to Oliver, to their entire team, as are just tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of teachers, and of course, these millions of students. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Charles Best to LinkedIn.
Jeff, I suspect, took some kind of crazy red-eye flight to be here and to explain DonorsChoose.org to you. And Jeff, thank you for that. It's just one example of many of Jeff going just above and beyond to help students and teachers through our site. I want to thank each of you. I can imagine that public education and charitable work might not be the first thing on your mind when you woke up this morning, and so just really grateful to you. And Oliver and I feel like we're a part of history that we get to speak to you after yesterday. So thank you so much for sparing just a couple minutes. To keep it really fast moving, I thought we'd show you a 2-minute clip that will give you a proper picture of the site and some of the folks who've joined Jeff in becoming champions of our efforts. So if we want to roll that 2-minute clip, that would be awesome. And then for the developers and data scientists and even just people who like to mess with data and play around with spreadsheets, after telling you just a bit more about our story, we're going to explain to you hacking education and the opportunity for developers, data scientists, and people who simply like to create charts to mash up our data, to make discoveries that could change education, to build applications on top of our classroom project requests.
There are few times in history when the saying, "we're all in this together," would be more applicable than right now.
Charles Best, he came up with a revolutionary idea during lunch in the teacher's lounge.
My colleagues and I were talking about books that we wanted our students to read, field trips we wanted to take them on, art supplies that we needed, but these ideas wouldn't go beyond the teacher's lunchroom. And then I just figured that there were people from all walks of life who wanted to help improve our public schools.
Through DonorsChoose, ordinary citizens can directly fund projects initiated by enterprising public school teachers.
Teachers request dictionaries, science kits, field trips, resources that their students need to thrive. Then you can give to the project request that most inspires you with a donation of any amount. And DonorsChoose.org delivers the materials to the school.
It's such a simple, wonderful idea. It connects individual donors with individual classrooms and individual teachers and individual projects. You know exactly who you're helping and how you're helping them.
It's tough getting a dollar. I don't like to give them all away, so if I do, I'd like to know where it's going.
When I started teaching last year, I didn't have any books for my students.
It put the supplies in my classroom within 2 weeks.
An art class in the Bronx had no paintbrushes, and now every single student has a set.
If you take a picture from the beginning of the year and now it's like empty and full.
You as a donor can expect to get photographs of the activity taking place, student thank you notes, a teacher impact letter, illustrating, proving the impact that you've had.
The thank you cards from the children are awesome.
Because I love to give and know that I have a connection.
Gets you right Right there.
It's a very easy way to give back to public schools.
And I think that takes the best of what the internet offers, an ability for people to self-organize around communities of shared concern.
This is exactly the kind of social innovation we should be encouraging across this country.
I love DonorsChoose.org, and it's why I'm on the board and why I'm committed to helping it in any way I can.
Make sure you check it out, DonorsChoose.org.
Let's not underestimate the power each of us has to change the world for someone.
So hopefully that gives you a sense of our site and Stephen Colbert and some other folks like that who have helped alongside Jeff to propel our effort. You've now got the story of how we began. I was going to mention that, but I think I'm going to skip it because Jeff gave it so eloquently and the video clip provided that. I think I'll just explain how our site really gained momentum. It happened shortly after 9/11 when a lot of the teachers at the public schools beside Ground Zero started using our site to get funding for recovery projects. So there was a math teacher whose students' calculators were sealed at the disaster site, and her project request was for a new set of calculators. There was an art teacher who wanted to bring in an Afghani artist to do an after-school workshop on Afghanistan. There was a first grade teacher whose students had been saved by a particular group of firemen, and they wanted to do a musical performance to thank the firemen who had saved them, and for that they needed musical instruments. So there are all these projects related to 9/11 recovery, and I thought that local news outlets would jump on this story. But after like 100 cold calls to local reporters, none of them would stay on the phone with me for more than 5 seconds. So just out of frustration, I called the senior editor of Newsweek, Jonathan Alter, and his name came up first because I was just using the alphabetical directory, so with the last name of Alter, A came up. And I called him during my lunch hour and said, hey, I'm a teacher up in the Bronx, and my students helped me to start this philanthropic experiment. Are you willing to hear our story? And he was the first reporter not to hang up, and we talked for 45 minutes, and he wrote a column saying that he thought that one day this little website growing out of a Bronx classroom would change philanthropy. And Oprah Winfrey's producers saw that story, and that's what inspired her to do this story about a place where public school teachers can be innovators, and where anybody, even if they have just $1 to donate, can be a philanthropist and get the kind of choice as to which project they want to support and the kind of accountability as to how every dollar was spent and the kind of vivid feedback in the photographs and thank you letters that you get that until not long ago was reserved for Bill Gates when he was making a $1 million gift. So that's what kind of kickstarted our organization. In 2007, a group of Silicon Valley leaders got together so that we could go national. They provided us with a one-time kind of round of funding, a charitable round of funding, so that we could open DonorsChoose.org to every public school and public charter school in America, and so that we could grow to the point where we would be 100% self-funding. When somebody picks a classroom project to give to on our site, it's up to them whether or not they want to allocate 15% of their donation toward our outreach and overhead costs, and the kind of earned income that we generate from classroom project donors voluntarily, including that 15%, makes us more and more self-sustaining. And in fact, in just a couple months' time, it looks like we're gonna break even as a charity on that voluntary allocation. And the group that enabled us to go national was Reed Hastings of Netflix, and David Filo, co-founder of Yahoo, Piero Midyar, the founder of eBay, Vinod Khosla, and much of that support we actually have Meg and Jeff to thank for. But in any case, 3-4 years ago, we opened our site to all the public schools in America. And today, teachers at 40% of all the public schools in our country have posted classroom project requests on our site. More than 200,000 classroom projects have been fully funded, driving books, art supplies, field trips, technology to more than 5 million students, most of them from low-income families. I'm going to give you one other anecdote to illustrate the breadth of classroom projects on our site and the ability for what we call a citizen philanthropist to express their personal passion and see classroom projects matching their passion. There was a writer for Fortune magazine who was doing a story on Kiva and DonorsChoose.org as the two websites that Fortune magazine thought were going to change philanthropy. And the writer, when we were done talking, said that his personal passion was saving the salmon in the Pacific Northwest. And that was his sort of nice way of saying that he would not be making a donation on our site because education wasn't quite his cause. It was saving the salmon in the Northwest. But before the writer left the room, I did a keyword search for salmon on our site. And there are about 25,000 classroom project requests live on our site in need of funding at any moment. And so when he did a keyword search for salmon, up came 5 classroom projects centering on saving the salmon in the Northwest. The second result was a high school teacher in Oregon who had created a salmon hatchery in the river flowing by his school, and he needed hip waders for his students to go in the river and maintain the hatchery. And the top result was a teacher on an island off Alaska, teaching in a one-room schoolhouse. She wrote in her project essay that she was 45 minutes away from the nearest store by airplane. And all of her students were Native Alaskans, and they had recorded their parents' folk tales about salmon and done research on salmon, and they needed a printer and a scanner to share that work with the outside world. And you'll see, we encourage you to put our search page to the test. Do a search for the town where you grew up. Do a search for your favorite author to see if there's not a teacher requesting a class set of books written by your favorite author. If you've gotten into yoga lately, do a search for yoga, and you'll see probably more than 100 projects from public school teachers, usually in low-income communities who need yoga mats or yoga resources to do yoga projects. Knitting, autism, horseback riding. If you did horses, you'd see a lot of projects from teachers who've decided that therapeutic horseback riding is a critical intervention for physically disabled students. Express your passion, and there will likely be classroom teachers who've come up with ideas that match your passion. And then you can give as little as $1 and connect with the classroom. During the checkout flow, we encourage the donor to write a message to the classroom they've just supported, telling them why they picked their project. It's your opportunity to say, I picked your project because my grandfather was also a watercolor painter, and that's why I'm supporting your project request around watercolor painting. 87% of our donors stick around during the checkout flow to write a message to the classroom they've chosen to support. And the teacher will usually write back even before the project is fully funded, and a pen pal relationship can emerge. And in fact, when you get the photographs and thank you letters for your donation, our first ask is not for you to open up your wallet again, but for you to reply to the classroom and tell them what you think about the photographs that they just published for you and the thank you note and the thank you letters that they just wrote to you. So that's our site. That's the experience. One of our proudest moments was showing up right next to LinkedIn on the Fast Company list of the 50 most innovative companies in the world, and they'd never put a charity on that list before, and we were fortunate enough to be that first charity and show up right alongside you guys. So again, we're just so honored. I want to pass now to Oliver, our CTO and head of product, to tell you about our hacking education contest. And if you think of DonorsChoose.org as all about crowdsourcing, we crowdsource to teachers on the front lines the labor of designing micro solutions for their very students. We crowdsource to donors the labor of picking which classroom solutions are worthiest. And now we're looking to crowdsource to the developer community, the data science community, the number crunching community, the labor of making discoveries within our data and improving the DonorsChoose.org experience. So our CTO and head of product will explain that contest to you, and then we're really psyched for your questions.
Thank you guys again for having us. Despite the breadth of our impact that we've had since Charles founded this company out of his classroom almost 11 years ago, we have a small team, and so we're always thinking about how can we deliver even bigger impact, broader impact, given the constraints of a relatively lean, small charity. The whole org is about 50 people, and we have about 8 engineers. So one of the things we got excited about was the idea of opening up our data via both an API and by publishing our data. And we're throwing a fun contest to draw attention to that and to invite folks, be they developers, data scientists, or as Charles said, just data crunchers or folks who are handy with Excel, to dig in and help us hack education and help us drive improvements. And we've got some awesome prizes. We have a bunch of categories: data analysis category, different technology categories, some really awesome judges and fun prizes. The grand prize will be judged by a really cool panel of judges: the venture capitalist Fred Wilson, Ariana Huffington, Wendy Kopp, who founded Teach for America, and also Joe Klein, who used to run New York City public schools. And then they're going to pick a winner, and the winner is going to be handed a trophy by Stephen Colbert on set, and that's awesome. So, so we wanted to get you guys excited about the contest. 2 reasons we're doing it specifically. One is very self-serving. We're a small team, and we think we've done some good things with the website, but we think we can do more. We know there's more upside, more potential. And we're challenging the developer and data cruncher community to help us make the site better so it can serve more teachers and students. And the other motivation is that we know that there's information on the site and there are insights in our data that can have a much broader impact on education in the United States than just what our website focuses on, which is helping teachers get their classroom projects funded. And so given the size of our team, we thought what better way to try to mine this data for insights than to open it up, publish it, and invite the technology community to help us dig through and see what we can learn. And let's see, just to quickly summarize the data, and then we want to whet your appetite with some suggestions for how you might participate. So we have an API. The API basically lets you reach into our classroom project database. So all of those searches that Charles described a moment ago, hey, can you show me projects about salmon in the Pacific Northwest? You can use the API to ask our database programmatically for that same information. And then you can present it or render it in any way you'd like. All of our projects are geotagged, for example. So you can say, hey, can you show me the nearest projects to where I'm standing right now with my mobile phone? You actually can't do that on the website because we have a small team and we have a long list of things to do, but the API can do that, which means that any developer participating can do that. So the API, basically think of it as reaching into our project database and pulling stuff, the same stuff you'd see on the site, into an application. And the data sets are, we think, pretty unique. We've taken 10 years worth of all the activity that's happened on the site, every project that was posted, whether or not it was funded, every transaction that happened on the website, every material resource item that the teachers were requesting. And we've sanitized, anonymized it, and then published it publicly. And the format are just these really big CSV files, so you can literally open them in Excel or load them into a database and then go nuts. And we think there's tons of insights in there. Just to give you an example, there are, in the data set, there's 1 million donations to classroom projects. There's also more than 1 million searches that have been done on the site, which expresses what folks are looking for when they go to fund. So let's touch on some, to sort of whet your appetite, let's touch on some things that you guys might do with the API or the data to participate. So one of our challenges, and this is all on our site, donorshoes.org, hacking education. One of our challenges is project discovery. You heard the story about that reporter, right? He actually wasn't going to give until Charles, because he was on the phone with him, helped him realize that he could express his interest, his passion, in the form of one of these 25,000 classroom projects. That was awesome, but Charles, this is a website. We're not on the phone with the donors. And so we think people show up and they might want to help, but they can't sort of serendipitously discover the thing that aligns with their passions, and we think sometimes they may leave without giving. And one of the things we're excited about is rediscovering or sort of reinventing the project discovery process on the site. Today, this is our search page, and frankly, it resembles shopping on Amazon. It's got all the filters, and it's got the keyword search, and I think it's great if you know what you're looking for. But if you don't, you just think you might want to help, but you're kind of looking for us to suggest things, I don't think it lends itself to serendipitous discovery, and I think we're leaving donations on the table. And so one of the challenges is helping us reinvent this project discovery process. So we think it has potential to bring in more donations. Another is the mobile experience. Right now, the mobile shift and the trend is obvious. Our team's right now too small to sort of do anything particular for it. If you come to our website on your iPhone or your Android phone, you'll just see our website. And we know that there's much more potential, especially knowing the location, that you might be able to do with that. So we'd like to invite you to also think about that. What might you do? What's the right experience for giving in this way on a mobile device? Let me cut back over to that. And then the third suggestion that I wanted to throw out there is something we wrestle with. So we have about 90. So we have about our conversion on the website is between 3 and 5%. In other words, people who show up and then give. And I wish it was more, but by e-commerce comparables, that's actually a decent number. And what that means, though, is that 95% of visitors are coming and then they're not giving. And one thing we're trying to do is grow the size of the top of the funnel so that fraction, so that the 1 in 20 fraction gets bigger. That'd be great. But we also have been challenging ourselves and want to challenge the community to think about what could our site do that is a lower bar to entry than opening your wallet, which is kind of a big deal. So how can we engage people that show up, aren't ready to give, but might want to dig in some other way that perhaps could start a relationship with us and get to know the site better, and then maybe down the line they would tell friends or they'd give themselves. And then Charles, do you want to touch on some of the analyses?
Sure, I'll mention analysis, and we're going to go to QA in 60 seconds, Q&A. Just to give you a sense, for those of you who are not developers, stuff you could do just with the data using your Excel capabilities. Maybe you'd want to identify the top 10 novels most requested by high school teachers in low-income communities, because that would be a fascinating list for parents who are looking for books that could get their kids hooked on reading. It would be really interesting to know what classroom teachers, our most dedicated teachers in low-income communities, think are the books most effective at getting kids excited about reading, or an analysis that could change a city or state school budget. Run an analysis which shows that East Palo Alto kindergarten teachers are submitting 40% more requests for rugs this year than they were last year. And maybe that ought to inform that municipality's next school's budget. That gives you a flavor for some of the discoveries that can be made. And even just mining our data for recurring themes, whether that's autism or school bullying or Shakespeare or math via cooking activities. And those are all real sort of like memes within our classroom project corpus. That should give you a flavor. So we hope we've compelled you enough to at least go to donorschoose.org. We hope a bunch of you will go to donorschoose.org/hackingeducation and participate. And now we'd love your questions about anything from how we guarantee the integrity of the teacher-donor exchange to where we're going, to questions for Oliver about our API and our data set and how that could be mashed up and what's available. So yeah, please, hope there are a couple questions, and thank you again for your time. Cool.
Hi, thank you so much for coming to LinkedIn. I think you're definitely speaking to the right audience. I can see folks' brains just thinking away about how to hack education. So in anticipation of you coming, we asked our audience what questions they had for you. And one of the questions was, does school fundraising, including that done by Donors Choose, create greater inequality? So this person, Anne, references research from People for Education in Ontario that shows that public schools in wealthy neighborhoods far outstrip that of low-income neighborhoods in terms of fundraising. So would love your thoughts on that.
Absolutely. So of the 300,000 classroom projects posted on our site, and of the 200,000 classroom projects fully funded, with 100,000 that didn't get fully funded, 85% of those projects are from low-income communities. The demand is just greater in high-poverty areas. That drives more teachers from those communities to our site. And then the donors who come to our site want to give where the economic need is greatest. And in fact, even our search results algorithm bubbles up those projects which have higher poverty rates. So 85% of the books and art supplies funded through our site go into low-income communities. We're almost the counterpoint to the PTA at the wealthy public school, which is a vehicle for parents to support their own kids' resources, which is really important. But we provide what we hope will be something of an equity counterbalance.
Hi, thanks for coming. I have a question about the economic downturn in the last few years. How has that affected donor volume? Has it gone down? Has it stayed constant? Has it gone up?
We're nervous about how we're going to continue this growth curve, but this school year, ending June 30, we're going to post 90% year-over-year growth in the number of people giving to classroom projects on our site. It'll be about 350,000 what we call citizen philanthropists who support projects on our site this school year. What we have seen since the recession is a precipitous fall in average donation size for each of the last 3 years. So that 90% donor growth corresponds to 40% growth in dollars contributed to classroom projects because of that drop in average donation size, which is in part just due to casting a wider net, but we suspect is also due to the recession.
Hi, my name's Eric. Glad to have you here today. I actually learned about your company in 2007, so big fan already. Awesome. Yeah. So in part because also digging into the philanthropist mindset, I helped build a company from the ground up. It's called Roll Golf Tour. So very, very familiar. One of the things that we ended up doing, instead of giving Christmas bonuses that year, we basically handed out gift certificates to all the employees for your company and saying, go out there, be inspired, do some research. And for me, because of the way the system I think worked at the time, it took me 3 times to actually get my money to be incorporated into a project. So I think that's a huge challenge, and I don't know what you've done since then, the efforts. But I know that if there's an effort that's out there for a classroom or teacher, specific types of children in need, how do you tackle that? How do you, outside of emailing your friends, going, okay, search this cause, donate to that, and how do you make sure that the money that's going into it can stay there because the cause has reached its fulfillment?
Absolutely. So I think what you're probably describing is giving, say, $10 or $100 to a $500 project, partially funding it, and then not seeing the project reach its full funding goal. Exactly. So what happens in that case, if you've partially given to a project and it hits its 5-month expiration date and it's not yet fully funded, we'll return those partial donations back to the donors in the form of account credits, which they can apply to another classroom project of their choice. The reason why we don't partially fulfill a project is because more often than not, it's physically impossible. We can't purchase 2/5 of a laptop or 1/5 of a projector or allow only half the kids to go on the field trip. 63% of the projects on our site get fully funded, which is actually substantially higher than the likelihood that an item you put up for sale on eBay will actually be sold. And then there's this portion which are partially funded when they hit that 5-month expiration date where we have to return the donation to the donor, and we hate to do that. We know it's not a fun experience for the donor to be told, oh yeah, that project you supported 3 months ago, we're giving you your money back because it didn't cross the finish line. That happens with 1 in 12 donations, which gives you a handle on your experience. And it might have been more frequent when you gave. Now, our search results, very simple algorithm, in addition to bubbling up classroom projects from especially high poverty schools, it also bubbles up classroom projects that have been supported by a bunch of donors. Because once we see that 12 donors have given to a project, we want to make sure that they don't have the experience of their donations being returned to them. So that project shows up higher in search results and is that much likelier to cross the finish line and ensure that those 12 partial donors see their project get all the way there.
So one of the other things I've been kind of brainstorming is, like, I have 3 girls, and I participate in the script program. So basically, you can buy script through school, and it's basically in the form of you get a gift card, and because you purchased it through the school gets X amount. Then there's other programs where, like, if you shop at like Whole Foods, Safeway, all these different places, if there's a way that basically you just register your, if you have some sort of card or membership, if you can register it with the site and just basically pick, like, okay, I don't know exactly which project I want to fund, but I know it's in this category or this bucket, or maybe I know exactly the one I want. So over the course of just doing my normal everyday shopping, in the different places, I'm not thinking about it, but it's just auto-funding.
To speak to maybe this may reiterate our search challenge.
Well, so the idea of sort of points or rewards-driven approach to building up credits in the site and then picking projects is, I think, a great one, and we haven't done something like that. I think it's an awesome idea. One thing we do have is subscription donating. We call it automatic monthly donations. You can sign up, and then once a month we'll deduct from your credit card or PayPal or Amazon the exact amount you want, and then we notify you that those credits are now in your account, and you can go pick a project at your leisure. But I think the specific idea you suggested is a great one, and it's not something we've explored.
And the last thing is, in kind of moving towards like the mobile spectrum, I know push notifications are a pretty powerful way of saying, by the way, tap, 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 come back. I think that if we can help you guys get to a point where you can actually have something on a mobile platform where there is that interaction, that there is that tap on the shoulder. Maybe it's, we're giving you a push notification, like the Cove. They did this. If you signed up to support them, you would get these push notifications saying, hey, by the way, here's the latest ... Here's what your money's supporting. I think that would be incredibly important for someone, especially a lot of the individuals within the companies that are creating companies, startups, et cetera. It's like, looking for other ways to expand and extend. And if there's a way to get like a push notification going, by the way, the project that you're helping to fund is not 50%, it's hit 75%, and maybe that's a way of saying, you know what, I'm just going to take it all away.
I think that's a great idea, and we will convey that to any developer who decides to create the first ever, and this would be the first ever hyperlocal philanthropic mobile app. So your idea of incorporating push notifications is a great one, and we'll pass it on to the awesome developer who decides to participate in hacking education and create a mobile app. Yeah.
Thanks for coming. I first learned about Donors Choose when Jeff handed me I think it was a $50 Donors Choose gift card, which I thought was a really awesome way of, I guess, taking larger donations from corporations or wealthy individuals and distributing it throughout the ecosystem. Can you talk about how that came about and how that works inside the whole dynamic that you guys have going?
For sure, yeah. So thank you. Of the 350,000 citizen philanthropists who supported classroom projects on our site this school year, 230,000 of them were actually making a donation using a gift card that a corporate partner like Facebook might have given them because they had totally. Well, we're looking. We'll have to. Yes, exactly. So as an example, Facebook gives DonorsChoose.org gift cards to their advertising clients. Yahoo trailblazed that back in the day, thanks to Meg. And the companies that do this range from tech companies to Crate and Barrel to sort of big Fortune 500 companies. And it's an awesome way to kind of crowdsource one's philanthropy and enable all kinds of folks to become philanthropists and to support classroom projects on our site. Our API, do you want to speak just quickly about the API's capability to hand out gift codes?
Yeah, the API is also transactional. So you can ask the API at the moment that you need it to issue a gift card to your program, which you can then hand to a user of any denomination. So you might do something neat where you're saying you're paying $100 at an e-commerce site, and in checkout you might say, hey, would you like to give X% to a classroom? And the person says, sure, I'll do that. And right at that moment you say your API, hey, right now I need a gift card for $11.50, and we'll hand it right back to you, and you could potentially hand that to the customer and help drive more donations to the site.
Hi, thanks for coming. This is wonderful, and as a parent of kids who are in elementary school, the first thing that I did when I looked on your site was to look up the school that my kids go to, and I didn't find any projects. So I'm curious about the other side of your outreach towards teachers, and how, as a parent, I can inform the teachers at the school that my kids go to around how to use the site and what kind of projects would qualify. And then I have a second part of the question, which is around, the school that my kids go to is a public school, but it's probably not in the low-income category. It's PTA does a lot of work to bring computers and other things like that to the school, but I still see with the budget cuts that a lot of field trips and things like that have been canceled, so I still think there's a lot of opportunity for our teachers to use this. And then I also think that it would be really interesting to see how we can get our own kids involved in even funding projects for other schools or other classrooms, like creating sisters classrooms where they can help another classroom complete a project. So I was just curious if you've thought about that.
Yeah, I love that idea. To your question about teacher participation, 170,000 public school teachers have posted classroom projects on our site over the last few years. It represents about, I think, 4% of all the public school teachers in America. Right now, teacher participation is not a growth constraint, shall we say. We're basically trying to keep up with the volume of teachers who just through word of mouth have heard about our site and are posting projects. So we basically don't do teacher outreach at a macro level unless there is like a match offer for a specific type of project that we want to make sure we tap. We welcome projects from teachers in middle-income communities. Our search results algorithm adds a little bit of extra weight to projects from really high poverty communities, but we welcome the 15% of the projects on our site which are from middle and upper middle income communities. And to your point about DonorsChoose.org is a place where philanthropy can be fun for an 8-year-old, I would just say amen to the thrust of your question. We've seen bar and bat mitzvahs decide to create a philanthropic registry of classroom projects that they would like to have supported in lieu of gifts. We've seen a lot of parents give DonorsChoose.org gift cards to their kids as a way to teach them the joy of giving back. Because reading through these really plain-spoken ideas as opposed to reading through like complex mission statements or 20-page grant applications is fun, even for an 8-year-old. And the connection that they forge with the classroom they choose to support can really leave an indelible impression.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hey, thanks for the great presentation. One question or one concept I was thinking of is why not have like a charity or an endowment type thing where you guys are deciding how to distribute this amount? I mean, or maybe I missed part of that. But like if I go to Red Cross, there's specific disasters or there's a general best most needed use bucket. So your thoughts?
Absolutely. Our core experience is one where the donor expresses a passion or stumbles upon a classroom project that makes their eye twinkle. And we recognize, though, that a lot of donors don't quite have that time to do that discovery or to conduct that search. And as one example, if you subscribe to an automatic monthly donation and you, after 30 days, have not allocated your credits to a project of your choice, we'll do so on your behalf using our algorithm for what constitutes the most urgent project on the site. But there's probably a lot more we could do for the donor who just wants to identify a category or who just wants to entrust us to allocate that donation, and there might even be apps around that a developer could create as part of Hacking Education.
Hi, I have not visited your site in great detail, so you may already have this. A lot of companies match donations that their employees make to charitable organizations. During the giving process, do you have hooks to define which company you work for, and do you have matching relationships in your database that let you submit the request for matching to the companies that the employee works for?
Essentially, yes. It comes as your immediate donation receipt has a link in it, which if you click and say where you work, the matching forms are provided to you right there. It's not as seamless as we all want it to be, but that's sort of more a function of many different companies having many different forms, some of which you need to fill out in triplicate to access that match. And so it's not as seamless as it should be yet, but that is pushed to you.
It is true that we've built for companies that we partner with, which is great when we do this. We can actually set it up so that a match can be activated within 30 seconds of your cash donation, which is sort of a really awesome employee matching experience, because I used to work at a big company, and the way it worked is you'd make your donation, and then you'd do the paperwork, or you'd fill out the form, and then at the end of the quarter, it would get swept up, and then you would get, and then what happens is we get the dough, and then we send you a gift card, and you may not even remember what this had to do with. And so we do have a way of partnering with companies and then letting their employees, essentially we activate the match instantly. And that's pretty neat. So you see a project that needs $100, you give 50, and then a moment later the other 50 arrives. But it requires some setup, and it requires sort of an arrangement with the company beforehand.
Hello, my name is Albert. First of all, thank you for doing this. As a 5-year-old parent of a co-op preschool, it's like I'm gonna use this website tomorrow. Awesome. So two idea and one API questions. So in terms of the API, do you guys have any data, for example, for every single individual members, do you have a query log of what is thing they are searching for, and what is the project they are donating, and what is the structured data behind it? So actually, if you have that piece of data in the API, you possibly can build applications like based on your donation behavior, what is the project you want to donate next? So those kinds of things, even like deliver through emails, put it very obvious kind of like modules on your homepage, kind of like is pushed what is the recommended project to you. Right now it's like you have to form a search intention. You need to find a project to fund, but not necessarily actually the things in your mind is have that things on your search database. So that's kind of one idea and also one API questions. The second idea I would say is like, is there any mechanisms for teacher when they choosing what is the project to put on the site, or even like when the school year starts, what is the project I need to kind of like put out this year? Is there any kind of mechanism you can tracking what is the kind of like trending project? What is the project category being most funded in the previous previous school year? There you go. So those kind of things like empower the teachers, like to deliver the most kind of like valuable knowledge to the student, which is actually can get funded. So this is kind of like the two idea and one question.
So they're great ideas. So for teachers, when they are on the site, we provide them with a bunch of suggestions. Although we really love them to come up with it and be innovative, and because they know their students best. You can use the API to ask about projects that are newly submitted or projects that are recently funded. So if you're trying to notice a trend, you can use the data set if you wanted to look back over a longer period of time, like 10 years, and see perhaps trends that might inform a teacher's decision about what to post. Right now, we don't have per donor data available via the API, but as a challenge to you guys, if a developer here at LinkedIn said to us, hey, I want to do something that is sort of a per donor integration, like something on their LinkedIn page that's per donor and tastefully shows off their support, or the type of integration you mentioned. Well, if someone told us they wanted to do that, and we had like a gentleman's handshake that they were going to really pursue it, we would probably add that functionality to the API. So let us know.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks for coming, guys. Question is, if there are a lot of charitable organizations in the area of education, if they want to use this platform, Donors Choose platform, such that they will redirect their donors to the Donors Choose, and then Donors Choose can funnel the funds back to that charity, because not everyone has a resource to build this platform. What are your thoughts?
We've struggled with how and whether to extend or share our platform with other sectors or other countries. The short of it is we've now instituted a webinar every 6 months so that anybody, if someone is looking to replicate DonorsChoose.org for social workers in the United States or for schools in Ghana, we will share anything and everything about our workflow processes, about our model. Our code yet isn't in a place to be open sourced. It's not sufficiently modular. And so in the meantime, it's that webinar where we want to help people get a running start if they're looking to replicate this idea of peer-to-peer philanthropy.
Hi, great work. A couple of questions. One on the data itself. Is the data standardized? And if you guys haven't put any thoughts into that. For example, I look for like iPad, and you're going to have like an UPC code for that, and they're all going to be the same. Or is it like just free form? And the other one is how are people actually purchasing the project resources, right? So do you price compare? I mean, how do you actually make the most out of the dollars that donors put in?
To the first question, what's in the data set is what you see on each project page on the website. And it's essentially the description line from the supplier of what they call the item and what the teacher said, yes, this is what I want to get. So the degree of specificity in terms of are there SKUs and product codes varies. I think some suppliers include that. Some people may just have a model reference, and some may not. It may just be sort of a plain English description of what it is. You'd have to dig in to see, and it would probably vary by supplier. And do you want to touch on the second half of the question?
Yeah, the second half is
which is about sourcing the
once you get the money, actually, how the purchase of the resources.
Oh, sorry, right. Yeah. Well, I misunderstood. So one of the things that's cool about the site is that the teachers actually, when they're putting the project together to post it, at that moment, they create a multi-vendor, they have like a multi-vendor e-commerce shopping experience. They put the project together, which is great because we didn't know exactly what it's going to cost. So when we tell the donor we need $523, it really, $523 really will bring it to life because we already know what exactly the teacher wants. And then we actually have a bunch of electronic purchasing integration to then order electronically through the supplier and then have it drop shipped to the classroom and then do electronic payment and so forth.
Okay, thank you.
And just to put a point on that, people often ask, how do you make sure that the projects are legit and on the up and up? That's by doing three things. We vet and validate each teacher's project request before posting it to the public site. Then when it's funded, to your point, we don't pass through cash to the teacher. We fulfill every project. Even if it's therapeutic horseback riding for disabled students, we pay the horseback riding stable to provide that service. And then thirdly, finally, there's the platform for every teacher, for every project, to publish photos of the project in action, publish an initial thank you note, and then an impact letter describing the student learning that's taking place, assets which, by the way, are available via the API.
So this is really great. Well, those guys were excited too. So I've actually been using Donors Choose since 2006. So
thank you.
This is really, really very cool. So actually, it was at my high school reunion. I was talking with someone. He mentioned that you guys actually use Ariba for all the order fulfillment. I was shocked because I'd sort of seen another implementation at a previous company, which was not as well designed from the user experience perspective. So I was just wondering how you got involved with that, what types of, I'm just sort of interested in the back-end technology and how that all works and what you think about it and how it came together.
Yeah, the short answer is that when Charles founded the organization, the first couple of years, they did all the ordering. The organization has always done the ordering, and it's always been critical to ensuring that the project came to life and guaranteeing that the dollars went to the right place. But Charles and his initial employees, who were, by the way, were the students in the classroom, would actually call up the supplier and say, okay, I'm looking here, and what we need is 3 type of pencils, and as we scaled, that became prohibitive, and so we plugged into Ariba, and we now do it all electronically. The teacher shopping experience is one in which they can either punch out sometimes to that third-party supplier's website and they actually are browsing around their e-commerce website. And sometimes it's like what they call a catalog experience where they're at a multi-vendor single catalog. And the feedback we get from the teachers is that it meets the needs. And we're always thinking about having the right mix of suppliers in the system in order to make sure the teachers' creativity isn't in any way limited by those options. But the electronic integration, that requisitioning and purchase order distribution and order status and payment and electronic invoicing was something we had to do. It was critical in order to scale, and fortunately Ariba has a hosted product that met our needs.
And to your point, the teacher shopping experience is not Ariba. It's an outfit called eSchool Mall because we wanted to be able to dictate and custom design the shopping experience because it's not for employees who've just done an HR training class as to how you navigate the e-procurement system. We need it to be as intuitive as shopping at Amazon because we're dealing with teachers who are we can't give them a training session. So the UI is actually a different provider.
Thanks.
This question is regarding about the school districts. What role they play in this? Because are you partnering, or is completely bypassing them to send it direct to the classrooms? Because whenever we go to school districts, the fundraising things happen. They say, hey guys, you have to involve the school districts and make sure they know about what you're doing, kind of thing. So how does that work? That's one part. The second suggestion is looking at these social networks and professional networks. When somebody comes to your site and donates something, are you leveraging that to spread the word? Like, I donated today. You guys want to donate, kind of thing. That's a kind of a API kind of thing you can build into your site that will have some viral impact.
For sure. I'll give a short answer, and then because we're over time, we'll chat with you further offline. So to answer super quickly, in terms of school districts, we've, for the most part, we just go by word of mouth and direct to the teacher, yeah, that's kind of the short answer. In some cases where someone's given a match offer for classroom projects from Mississippi teachers, we definitely call up the Mississippi State School Superintendent to get their help in spreading word about the opportunity. But the short of it is, as a disintermediating platform, we sort of jump around the layers of administration and go direct to the teacher. To your point about integrating with social networks, the short of it is every time we enable a donor to share the classroom project that they have just supported via any of the social networks of which they're a part, or professional networks of which they're a part, we see a bump in donations. And it literally translates into delivering more resources to more students when we can plug in and consider that to be a final ending shameless plug for a developer to figure out how people can better share the classroom projects that they've supported and which reflect their personality and which they would very much like an interviewer and a prospective employer to see to make those part of someone's LinkedIn profile by participating in our hacking education contest. We actually do have donors who've called us up before saying, I'm 3 days away from an interview. I made a donation to a classroom project on donorschoose.org, which I think is reflective of my professional interests as well as my personal passions. I'd really like it to be showing up when someone Googles my name, 1 or 2 results after my LinkedIn profile. So can you tell me when your server's going to update so that will show up when an interviewer searches my name? So we'll leave it at that in terms of how LinkedIn and donorschoose.org resonate. Thank you, Meg, who has been just one of the very first supporters of donorschoose.org. When I was teaching full-time, Meg saw our potential before anybody was supporting us. So thank you, Meg. And then Jeff, I think you can appreciate what kind of a champion and a board member Jeff has been, not just in terms of his generosity, but in terms of his expertise and his product sensibility. And please take advantage of Jeff's incredible, amazing gift to each of you. So thank you again for your time, and we'll stick around, and thank you again.